Thank you for coming in here to shake us down with a few questions, Mr. Bradley. For the sake of the record, I'm Joyce Dorsey, and I am the CEO of Fulton, Atlanta Community Action Authority, long and strong bred in Atlanta's infrastructure, and a part of the community as well as a servant. And to my right is Christian Belton, who is a lady of the cloth, one of the young people who decided to make Jesus a choice. But I've chosen her to help me get the word out through social media and other venues about this work and to do something very important to help children. And she has formulated or in the process of formulating a foundation called ICU. Christian, hello.
Hello.
And very shortly, tell them what ICU is in conjunction with your work at FACA.
Okay, ICU is my most recent initiative to help children that come from low-income families as well as seniors, or just a regular person who just cannot afford the proper vision care. We need our eyes, and a lot of times insurance policies and plans are very expensive even for those who have coverage, and we still fall short. And so being a person who wears glasses, been wearing them since I was 3 years old, I understand how important it is
How expensive it is.
And how expensive it is.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the parents that we helped today said, I've had to choose between my lights or my child's eyesight.
Right.
I buy you one pair, if you lose them, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and then they go on years and throughout the school year, and it affects them. And so that's what that is. I work with Dr. Dorsey. I'm her mini-me, hoping to sit with her and learn more. I've been with Dr. Dorsey a little over 8 years.
Some of it's inbred. You wouldn't have been able to come into these channels and last.
Right.
If you didn't already have it going on.
Yeah.
All right.
But you helped me to get it better, so I'm learning more. And
appreciate that.
Here to just learn more, really, to progress my knowledge and to help others. Dr. Dorsey is a selfless individual, and so aside from what we do at FACA, she has inspired me to become more selfless and learn more about my community and those who are affected by the decisions that we vote on. I came here at a young age. I was 18 years old, and I at that time was not cognizant of local elections. I didn't understand.
You were fresh out of high school.
Yeah. And
still a baby.
Just voting for the president, not knowing that the commissioner made some choices for me that I needed to know who was sitting on the post or sitting in that office.
Or city councils.
And so here we are, fast forwarding to 2017.
Yeah.
And I'm watching things take place before my very eyes, and I'm like, if only people knew. So
right. Well, you know, that's maturity in the way you sound without me trying to appease this young lady. The way you sound shows that you got it, and you're getting it more. And despite some of my parental voicing from time to time, which she'll stop speaking to me for a minute, but after she gets over it, she says, "Oh, okay, I got it."
Right.
So we got a good time. Yeah, but I have a grandson that is sort of parallel. And the thing is, he overcomes a little bit quicker because we are in the same household. But I want to talk about what you asked me to talk about, Clyde, and that has to do with Atlanta politics. But I want to preface it that consciously, very consciously, almost a decade ago, I moved away from the county, or the city of Atlanta, in order to be more universal in my thinking. In other words, I didn't want to be in a district. I didn't want to be beholden to anybody on any level of government, because the state of Georgia has a lot of problems that is shared from county to county, district to district, person to person, organization to organization, and certainly I am able to spread my tentacles wider in the area of understanding as well as in the area of my work and productivity, accountability, and whatever it takes to make sure that I am neutral as it pertains to zones. Because the people that I serve are in this multi-city County. And that makes Fulton County very diverse according to regions and all of these other plans that are being made for, I would hope, for progressive reasons. So what I'm going to do is subject myself to your questions and let you pin this discussion in the direction that you were hoping to take.
Since you made that statement, if you look at Atlanta Regional Commission, if you look at Invest Atlanta, how do we tie that into why we vote and the outcomes of the elections in terms of what goes on in the city?
Now, that's sort of like a political science question. And I would say that those people who are sitting in higher places, that is, they're over organizations that take a look at the entire region, take a look at a zip code, take a look at what is insufficient to make the city itself progressive. When you say regional planning, when you say metropolitan in the name of the organization under that, or when you say homelessness at large, when you say hunger, when you say affordable housing, even when you say Beltline, you're speaking of more than one zip code, more than one immediate locale, more than one race. And a lot of people are not able to grasp that. So then the people that we elect, if we are not cognizant of the big picture when we're looking at election, we get boggled down in what happened in our recent Atlanta mayoral election, which to me was a debacle. It was a debacle mainly because those people who are in high places did not choose to typecast how this mayoral election should look. A lot of the commentaries were on the persons who were running rather than what we perceived as their scope of understanding for the entire city or the entire county or the entire region. And what happens in Atlanta affects a part of the region. What happens in Fulton County affects a part of the region, and so it is with the city.
Yeah.
We lost.
You're following that, right?
I agree with that.
We lost issues. We got away from issues and went to personality.
That's right.
And appearance.
And if we look at what's happening with the homeless,
Right.
the gentrification,
Right.
what are we to do? How do we get back on track to start talking about issues and hold elected officials accountable to help the least of these?
You got something?
I have an answer. I think one of the things that you just said is that we lost the focus on what they said they're going to do.
Right.
And we started looking at who was running.
Right.
And that took the attention away from the actions that
Yes.
were supposed to take place
Yes.
if you get in office.
Mhm.
And so now that same energy that we surrounded with, oh, we've got this person in office now, she's going to be, keeping that seat Democratic or whatever it was, or she's, and I'll be honest, my generation was focused on the fact that this was a person that looked like us.
Right.
And what happens is, if they look like us, we think they're going to look out.
Right.
That's who we want,
Yeah.
and the mentality is they're going to look out for us. And so I would have to say, if we rallied up to support because of who someone was, now we need to rally up with the issues and bring it to that person and say, hey, we put you here, what are you going to do? But it's going to take people getting the knowledge, because
Yeah.
I don't think people that voted know what that person, if you polled them, I really feel strongly about this. If you did a poll and said, hey, so-and-so, what was Miss Bottoms or what was Miss Norwood, what did she say she's going to do?
What were their real positions?
Right. What would you be able to answer that? And I don't believe everyone could answer that.
There are think tanks and groups that these politicians did come to. And I happen to be a part of one of those groups, highly intelligent leaders who ask questions on various issues pertaining to Atlanta. And there were several candidates that responded. But because I'm a social worker, I looked at the various angles in which those questions were answered. And most of those candidates did not take the time to go full force into those questions in order to answer them with some sort of a strategic idea of what needed to happen in Atlanta, but one. And that solidified my support around Mary Norwood, not because she was white or black, but because after knowing this candidate for 40-something years and doing different things with her off and on, we lived on different ends of town, so our paths didn't always cross, but ideologically there were things that were going on in the city of Atlanta that from time to time we discussed. I saw a play out without any input. None of us gave input, but we received their summation of what they were going to do about the various issues that were explained as a focal need for explanation. These are the kind of things that have to happen on a wide scale. Every citizen in Atlanta can't be a part of the same think tank. No. But every citizen in Atlanta, for their own interest, needs to think holistically. And that just didn't happen. We got bogged down in party, but this was a nonpartisan race. We got bogged down in race, but the city is a rich blend of just about all of the United States variety of races. And it is becoming one of the most highly sought after places to live.
Yeah. When I looked at the people that were promoting the race who don't live here.
Right.
Now, one part who don't live here. You have people telling us who to vote for who do not live here. But Atlanta is attractive. We're the mecca of the South.
Right.
You know, we're the capital of the South. And so there was a lot of attention on this race.
Well, but see, that could be said of me. I told you I moved out of the city with a purpose in mind. But the truth of the matter is, I will endorse anyone that I feel is good for Timbuktu. And that's because if I've studied Timbuktu, and I know what Timbuktu is lacking because I'm providing either some services in Timbuktu or I have affiliations thereof, I know pretty much what I'm talking about. But now the other thing is, all of the candidates didn't seek everybody out who had an opinion. A lot of folk who had some desire to see either one come out may not have known either one of the candidates.
Right.
That's an anomaly. So we've got to now search our hearts, and those who had a lot to say have got to have a lot to do to make this city great. Otherwise, we will be looked at as somebody who really just was talking a whole lot of hot air. So that if that answers the question.
How many months do you think it's going to take for us to start seeing?
Well, you know, you've got a new city council halfway, and you've got a new mayor who was a part of the city. The good news is both of the candidates were a part of the city prior to the election. So we have to see exactly which directions are going. There's a lot of cynicism about that, and I'll reserve my comments about what I think is going to happen, because the truth of the matter is sometimes eyes get open, or you sit in a seat of prominence and you realize there's a legacy being built in my name. What do I want that legacy to be? And my trust in Miss Bottoms, who also is a soror.
I was going to say, she's one of your girls.
Yeah, but you know, when it comes down to politics, sorors don't have too much to do with that.
Some people weren't voting for her because she was not a Delta. I mean, because she was not AKA.
I see. Well, see, those things, when they play a part of a decision, I really go, you know, up in the air on that, like, oh, really? But the truth of the matter is, wisdom has to take control. Now, I'm going to talk about one other thing, and then I think this subject will be covered. When Maynard Jackson was elected mayor the first time, I was just getting out of college. And boy, were we running to the polls to vote since my age of 18, which would have been my first year in college. Now, don't look at me, Clyde, and ask me what year that was. But in 1970, we were all excited about what was going on in Atlanta. I also voted for Sam LaSalle when he was in office. Ivan Allen was in office by the time I was already eligible to vote.
Okay.
But sometimes I did vote black. Maynard Jackson had a flavor which has not been replicated. I'm sorry, Shirley. I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry, Mayor Reed. I'm sorry, anybody who was of the same shade of black or just black. But Maynard Jackson cannot be replicated. I am just sorry. What Maynard Jackson did, which also, without me knowing it, it was subliminal, it shaped my style of social work. He was having town hall meetings on a regular basis. He didn't just rely on the NPU or the city's planning and development committee or the city council or their constituents individually. He went from one end of the city to the other on a scheduled basis to make sure that he had an ear to the community. Now you tell me what mayor has done that. It was scheduled in all of his administration, especially his third one. And as the empowerment zone prepared its way for the Olympics, this mayor set the tone. And the only one that has come as close to him was Bill Campbell. So I'm going like, well, what happened? Why were they so interested in the little man? Because the least, the what you do for the least of these, Reverend,
That's scripture. I was gonna say,
you've done for me.
That's it.
And no city can be any greater than the poor that can rise out of poverty.
Weakest link.
And I have not seen an agenda since the Bill Campbell administration that has addressed poverty with any concerted effort
The focus
to
was
reduce
different.
it.
When you look at Jermaine Jackson's person who had the focus of the people,
Yeah.
it wasn't the focus on the position. I think some happens. What happens now with a lot of politicians, they're so focused on getting that position,
Right.
that they lose sight of what
Right.
that position is supposed to do.
Right.
We revered those people because it was almost as if I'm not your mayor, I still care about you. If I'm not in this place, I care about you, and if I care about you,
Right.
you're going to in return care about me.
That's true.
I
That's
think
true.
people, and this is scripture, for men would want to be lovers of themselves.
That's right.
Lovers of money.
Yeah.
And then you start forgetting
Right.
those who are in need.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be my mayor, and if I see you, I feel like you're just important that you cannot.
Or I am afraid to approach you.
Why do people
Or
like President
I'm afraid
Obama?
to differ with you.
They liked him because he stopped when he saw the people.
Right.
It was almost like he had to make time, and you didn't feel like it was that fake.
Yeah.
Can I just shake your hand? This was, hey, thank you for supporting me, because I wouldn't be here
Or
without you.
I know why you didn't support me, so how can we work
That's
together
it.
so that we can still
Focus
have a
is on
common
the people.
objective for the better outcome of the region
Not the
that I
position.
am governing now. Now, this is not just the fault of mayors in the past. This is also the fault of county commissioners and city council members and even representatives on the state level and now the federal level. We have elected officials that will not speak to people that they realize one way or the other
They don't know their
did
people.
not support the campaign. But were you there courting that support? Were you there
Right.
trying to make sure that that citizen knew what you were trying to represent? Were you there
Did you
trying
make
to
them aware?
get
Right.
them in
Right.
your corner? See, politicians have got the egotistical flavor to the point that
You want to
none
know
of
me.
what you matter, what you
Right,
say
right.
matters. And my opponents are nothing because they're nothing.
It's almost like,
Whoa.
they feel like we should want to know them. They don't want to know us.
My Lord.
And I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. I'm always amazed because I'm like, how do you get to this point?
Yeah.
But I think the vote is
No,
that
you are learning not to ever get to that point.
Right.
Because whether you are the pastor of a church, and many of them go up in flames, whether you are an elected official, many of them go to jail.
Yep.
You got to make sure that, whether you are someone like me in a position that not only can't pass an audit, but that money went funny.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that your standing is erect and correct in order to survive public opinion after you're gone. See, it's after you're gone that people judge you.
How do we get back to EOA in terms of going out in the community, finding out what the needs of the community are, and have it changed through your governmental officials?
you got to go where those people are.
Yeah, but see, I
Educate them.
have HUD, the Atlanta Housing Authority back in the 80s and 90s, and public policy in general to blame. Because those people who were over those categories were following the will of people above them, or for that matter, statistical information that seemed to be right. Public policy really does undergird most of what we do in local politics. Now, the Atlanta Housing Authority in the early 90s began to be decimated. New leadership took charge. Hope 6 or Housing 6, what was the name of that program? That basically changed the policy. And all over the United States, you saw public housing going down, and you saw new affordable housing coming up,
Yep.
but it was not enough to replace the number of people who were dislocated in the public housing arena. Many of those who were dislocated did not find new housing under subsidized programs other than maybe Section 8. When you are running a household rather than an apartment unit, the cost increases. But if your income has not increased, then naturally the cost is going to catch up with you. And therefore the eviction rates in Georgia rose. And what you saw was a lot of homeless women with children since 1994. If you look at the statistical charts, you will see those lines moving upward. And if you look at those statistical charts, because a lot of employment, your bigger programs like, your bigger organizations like IBM and others became regionalized. And a lot of your automakers moved out. And sort of like Detroit, Atlanta became marginalized in terms of economics. And the mayors did try to do something about that, but the employers are the ones who employ. And as Atlanta was seen as a mecca, because new housing, beautiful housing, was springing up, people from the north, south, east, and west were coming to Atlanta and absorbing the job market, some of which was previously occupied by lower income people, but because of rules changing, like education, and I would say credentials, or for that matter, your
Financial
credit,
scorecard.
your credit,
Yeah.
or your arrest history. Employers were then labeled or able to go back years. And if you had a blemish on your record, you're out of
They
here.
put you at the bottom.
And
It's
if
over.
you have a record or a bad credit or foreclosures or whatever, you're out of here. We can't hire you. And we're finding that people are, even today, being evicted from housing once they're recertified. And this new rule has kicked in that if you have a record 10 years years ago, you're out. If you have a ding on your credit and your score is low, you may not qualify for certain programs.
Even these jobs with the county.
The jobs are like that.
My mom works for Fulton County. We just talked that what they're doing is now people have been there 10 years with no education.
Right.
They've just been on a job,
Right.
going on a job. They're doing, if you come in now, you got to have a certain level of education.
Right.
They're declassifying jobs.
That's right. That's
going
right.
to contract positions.
That's right.
And as soon as the contract is up, you're out. You're out.
Yeah.
So people are forced
Well, that's
to
in the
retire,
city, the county, the
make
state,
$500 less.
Yes.
Because if you retire, you can
And
leave the
if your
benefit.
bills
You know what
can't
I'm
be
saying?
paid, too bad. Too
Oh, well.
bad. And what we have
That's
in
so
FACA is we know that there are people who come looking for help who are sleeping in their van or their car. Some people have actually bought vans because they cannot afford to live in a house. Some people are being run off of parking lots where they might park after the store is closed, but they have to go. They can't find any place to be, and there are no other kind of lots. So, hey, let's go in and buy some lots and let them become. But then, of course, the housing department might cite us for trying to do something like that. It's a locked-in system where you can get locked up for certain types of transgressions that you didn't know that the law was legislated to cover. And that makes me wonder, where are we going from here? And these are the challenges of a new mayor.
Right.
Now, I'm going to tell you one other thing, because the homeless question you asked me. You asked me, what about the homeless? I think the deal on the Pine Street shelter was made before it closed, way before it closed. And there was a big fight over what could be the final deal, because faces change at the table, attitudes change, and sometimes the price goes up. I don't have the inside knowledge. I'm speaking generally as property might be concerned. But the recent legislature in this city, as well as in cities across the country, is that it's a crime to feed the homeless without a permit. Now, I, Joyce Jacqueline Dorsey, who am, is, was, and will be a minister, if I go to McDonald's and someone is hungry, I'm giving them my food. And if a policeman sees me, here we go. In the name of Jesus, I have done what I am called to do. So I'll stand before the judge, and my record will be smeared for trying to help my fellow man.
Right.
That's just how insidious this thing is. What you got to say about that, Reverend?
Sense to me. That makes no sense to me. Arrest me if that's the case. If I can't give to someone something that I paid for, that's my right.
Well, the church can have a barbecue, and you can walk up and buy a sandwich. There may not be a requirement for a health license. I hope I'm not suggesting that you do. There may not be a need for a permit, but they can pay $3, $4, $5, or $6 and have that sandwich and walk away and nobody says a thing. These are the kind of inconsistencies. And it says, what you say, what you do for the least or against the least, you've done it to me, says the Bible. I didn't write that.
Now, if we go back 50 years, coming up next year, on the Poor People Campaign, what has changed? What is the same? Or where do we need to go? Or what have we learned? From the war on poverty, from affordable housing, for economic development, and for jobs.
What have we learned?
Yes.
We've learned how capitalism works, honey. That's what we've learned. We've learned that those of us who care about the poor are downtrodden socialists. And I'm going, socialist? That must have been what Jesus was. You think he was a socialist?
He was. Jesus was everything.
He wasn't a communist, because the meaning of that word has changed from decade to decade. Marxism has changed, even though Karl Marx wrote the manifesto that makes us understand what he was talking about. But he was also talking about a little social sharing.
Right.
I don't understand what really is going on. I think, though, that as in most major cities, I was in San Francisco not long ago, and I was nearly stepping over the homeless. People laying right there in the street.
Like that too. I went to Boston.
And I was in Paris last year and saw that. And I'm going, I want to take a picture. And the cab driver said, please do not take a picture. I said, do you think they'll be offended? No, the world will be offended.
Right.
Because everybody is coming here. We need their money. So I put my camera up. But there are people who are so maxed out on the manner and means in which you should subsist that they will take to the street. That's the only place to sleep. And thank God the young man was exonerated from the accusation of some little fire in a barbecue grill or
blame
trash can
on the homeless.
burn up a whole bridge.
There's only one stipulation with that.
Well, he needs some training.
18 months.
Yeah.
If he mess up on this.
Tell that young fellow if he doesn't have a job, I'll hire him to work with ex-offenders. I need somebody as articulate and now charismatic as that to help others come around to themselves. We really need to use people like that to bring others out of their circumstances, even over in the Bluff.
I got one for you.
Okay.
I guess the other thing I'll sit here and talk about, and then we close up on this. I'm going overseas. I'm looking at Libya. I'm looking at the slave trade.
Yeah, you want to visit those places.
In Libya.
Yeah, it's still going on.
Right now.
That's never stopped. It never stopped since the day we were sold by our own kin. So I would say this, when you look at the prison industrial complex, that's slavery. And those people were sold. Some of them were sold by their own attorneys. All right?
For work.
I just helped my son write a book about that. The attorney works for the system. Even if the system doesn't pay him directly,
he's getting paid.
His good standing has a lot to do with how he represents the people.
Yeah.
Because the judges and the lawyers and the clerks and sometimes the ones that go before the court are sometimes friends. Would you not know that?
I believe it.
And so you've got to maintain the system. Yes, I said that. I did say that.
Now, today is election day in Alabama.
And if Roy Moore loses, I will be very shocked. Because when the president comes to stimulate the vote, he didn't come here to Atlanta to do that. When he comes to stimulate the vote, it's over.
Now, I guess I got two lovely ladies here.
Thank you.
And
I love your hair day.
And this is what I want to know. I guess in the last weeks, months, all you've been hearing is sexual assaults, sexual investigations.
You don't want to know my thoughts on this.
What's really going on?
As a woman, there's no way. I'll tell you this. As a woman, I have been almost as guilty as enticing a man as a man has been guilty of trying to have his way with me. And so I'm not saying that because I know a lot of women decry this. But all you have to do is walk in City Hall and see the short dresses with the split up the back. All you have to do is walk. You remember we were in the Capitol.
Right.
And I saw stilettos from little aides and I'm going, whoa. There's something about America's culture that has taught us to be pleasant to the eye of men, to rise above our level of achievement at the moment, that we are convinced that that's what we must do. Now, that does not exonerate a man. I raise sons and I stay on their back. I don't care how good I look. If I didn't tell you to come on, don't you come nowhere near me.
But let me say this.
Uh-huh.
I'm with you with that. My problem is, if you don't have to wait 25 years, you ain't got to wait 10 years. You know. There's not that much shame in the world to wait 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Because if somebody does something inappropriate, okay, let's say you don't say
y'all
right away.
you better look at Marilyn Monroe and a few others that died.
Speak up.
Oh,
Speak
yeah.
out, but don't wait 10 to 15 years and 20 years.
Am I ready to be
30
hung
years.
on the cross?
You know what I
speaking up?
first said?
I'm taking the alternate view. I'm not trying.
What I first said when I heard out, I said, I wish I knew Bill's number, Bill Cosby. Because I text Bill and I said, lay low, brother. Because you know what? It was all this spotlight, and it's just like it just starts popping.
Well, at least he did not castigate the women.
No, he didn't.
And see, that's the part that gets me. You can't say, well, she wanted it.
Right.
And she went home crying and sometimes conceived something, if nothing but a disease.
That's true.
You can't tell me that she should have said something if you dosed her up on something that... listen, I'm going to tell you one thing, and you all need to understand. This is a personal experience. I went to a conference, and I did not have staff with me. Mm-hmm. And I went to the bar where all of the colleagues were sitting down. You could eat, you could drink. I ordered wine. After I took 2 or 3 sips of that wine, my head started spinning.
Did you get slow? You get sleepy?
Yeah, but I know I was looking good. You know what I did? I got my purse. I said, excuse me, I've got a call. And I went to my room. I did not wake up until the next day at about 12:30. And that was because the maid was knocking on the door to get in to clean the room. And I was still woozy. This becomes a case in point for my understanding of what some women have gone through, either whether it was Bill Cosby or anybody else.
But in my line, I'm a part-time flight attendant.
Yes.
I'm in the air with people all day long.
Right.
Travel with the pilots.
Yes.
Lay over in hotels with pilots.
Right.
I've seen people flirt.
Right.
My
Those
thought
pilots
is,
do
you
believe
know
it
what
pretty
you're doing.
good, though. I mean, you know,
when they
we are
ask me,
women,
do
you
I
know.
want to have something to drink?
I say no,
thank you. I'm
Yeah.
good. I don't.
Well, I would tell on you, Reverend, if you did.
Okay, well, don't tell
Now,
me.
look.
Jesus drank a little wine too.
That's what I told you back in the day.
I'm sitting here with 2 pastors.
Oh no!
Well, no, we're not pastors. I tell you this.
Let's talk
we
about
keep an
this.
eye on the pastors, don't we?
Right.
Let's talk about
don't
this.
go there, brother.
Let's talk about
Most
this.
of them brothers.
If we look at King David
Yes.
and Bathsheba,
Yes.
what did he do? Now, if this has been going on since the beginning of time,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
how are we changing the culture?
Well, we're not changing the culture. What is happening is people are not reading the word, because he caught pure hell from that day on. Every one of his children went wrong. Everyone.
That's true.
Even Solomon was considered one of the greatest kings. He did like Daddy did, and he did not really. He got a lot of glory for building great palaces and conquering and doing whatever he did. But the truth of the matter is, you reap what you sow. One way or the other. It may not be in the same
Father.
That's right. It runs on down because you are modeling your ways in front of your children.
That's generational. When you look
Yes.
at women who are loose women, have children, then they raise young ladies
It hits
who are
you
loose.
regardless of your
Young
gender.
men. The father ran the street.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, they run the street. They have to try twice as hard not to be like
We
that.
emulate what we see closest around us.
That's it.
And I am emulating my mother and my father. I chose those strengths that they both exhibited in front of me. Both of them were servants of the poor. Both of them were from priestly families. And both of them dedicated their lives to the members of their church. They did that. Someone go to jail, the children stayed at our house. Someone didn't have any food, Miss Gladys cleaned off the shelves. Someone needed a job, Reverend E.H. went to Delta and all of these other agencies that the civil rights movement made open up to fair employment and got members of the church the job. Now it helped the collection plate too, but no, that was not the motive. It did help, it's true.
What would you ladies like to say in closing?
Get informed, start asking questions, and hold whoever you vote for accountable.
And hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Because if you will not attend commissioner meetings,
That's right. PTA
council meetings, PTA meetings, any meetings that affect regional council meetings, which is like, Atlanta ARC. If you won't go and at least be a fly on the wall to understand how policies are driven, how change takes place, and how it's going to affect you, shame, shame, shame. Who said that? There was someone that,
On like Good Time or something.
it might have been. Shame, shame,
That's
shame.
that movie with Samuel L. Jackson, where he was the...
Well, I like that.
What's that movie?
Because you're either a part of the solution or you're a part of the problem. Also, I'm going to say this to you, my brother, because you know what I mean. Everybody who is homeless in America came from a family. Most of those families exist knowing that the homeless is homeless. Most of those families are doing nothing to help their homeless family member come out of that state. Most of the people who have homeless relatives are too ashamed of them to really help them. Now, I'm saying that with qualification because I too have had members of the family that were homeless. But I had a mother that said, how dare you serve anybody and you're not taking care of your own. If we all did that, we wouldn't have homelessness, at least at the measure. Some homeless people don't want to deal with their families because the families were abusive, neglectful, problematic, and nobody wants to really deal with that. But some people are homeless because things went wrong, or the family turned them out too soon, or the parents got up high and mighty and denounced them. These kind of things are going on, and when we start talking about solving the homeless problem, we need to look at that. Last but not least, I am the parent of an ex-offender. I am the first cousin of the former sheriff of DeKalb County. I am also a relative of many others that went to prison. But because of our family values, we never turned our backs on any of them. And we have taken care of them with respect to lesbian, gay, what's the part of that acronym?
Transgender.
There's somebody in every family. Come on now.
It's true.
And are we going to denounce them? If we are, what was that other Bible verse you cited?
Judge not.
Judge not. Woo! See, while you're sitting up pointing a finger out, look at what's pointing back. Even this one is turning up. We've got to be careful about how we judge Atlanta, how we judge the politicians, how we judge everything that's going on, and look at what we are or are not doing to be a part of the solution. That's about all I got to say before my throat goes out. Thank God I overcame the flu.
I sit here and I thank God to be in your presence.
Me too.
I thank you for being in y'all's presence because we had a good conversation today, didn't we? We might have to put our little video of it online too. Because you serve and reach a certain audience, so do we. Let's make sure that people hear this discussion. If you have a problem with anything I said, don't tag me on Facebook and do that. Call me at my cell number.
And that is?
Which is 678
Here we go.
592-8281. And if I don't answer, it's only because I'm listening to somebody else give me a hard time.
Do like me.
You know, and I love it because I tell you this, we have to give food for thought.
Amen.
And people who don't understand where I'm coming from usually enrich me because I either come to their position or they come to mine, or we establish that there's a middle that we can't meet.
There's a dialogue.
And that is what it takes to communicate. Communicate doesn't mean I agree with everything you say or you agree with me. It means we come together.
Or we can agree to disagree.
Mutual conversation. It doesn't have any connotation of agreeing or forcing
It's true.
your views on anyone. Make your own video and say something that decries what I say, or let's just talk together on video,
Right.
so that we can enrich the public. Somebody might have an opinion that needs to go online, and it needs to be done friendly and with respect, because that's what I will do.
Yeah.
But I will differ if I must differ, in order to not just hold my position, but for it to be tested. It does need a few tests.
Thank you.
Like why I won't marry Clyde. Y'all, Clyde will not be married to nobody. Thank you.